It is often stated that one of the key qualities of any story or movie is the strong relationship bonding that occurs between the characters. And so for Alita Battle Angel the movie, or Battle Angel Alita the comic, although there are many characters that come out that have very prominent dynamic presence, such as Grushka, or Vector, or Nova, or even Hugo, one of the characters and the relationships that the readers and the viewers cherish very much is the one between Alita and Dr. Ido. So welcome to another Alita Battle Angel / GUNNM video. And as you can imagine, today's topic is about the relationship between Alita and Dr. Ido. And of course I called him Dr. Ido rather than Dr. Dyson Ido because there are actually two Dr. Idos depending upon whether you're watching the movie or reading the manga. So of course in the movie it is Dr. Dyson Ido, and he plays a fatherly type of figure for Alita, whereas in the comic it's Dr. Daisuke Ido. And he is a much younger person, and so he portrays a more of a older brother / friend sort of relationship with Alita. And despite their differences, these two characters play an important and similar role in their respective stories by providing moral and emotional support for Alita, as well as a voice of reason when it's necessary. And it is this aspect of kind of a mentorship sort of relationship that gives Alita Battle Angel or Battle Angel Alita a separation, a uniqueness to the story as compared to a lot of the other dark science fiction techno thrillers by providing a bit of warmth, a bit of empathy to the story on top of the typical political dark aspects that you often see in these types of stories. And even amongst the few science fiction or fantasy sort of stories that does have a mentor sort of relationship, such as Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars or Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings, this one is a little bit unique in that the mentor is not this wise old sage that seems to know everything that is proper, and the student who's trying to learn from this mentor, but it's a much more realistic relationship in which the mentor has their own sets of problems and is trying to give the support to the main character despite all the problems that that mentor may have. And that is true whether you're looking at Dyson Ido in the movie or Daisuke Ido in the comic. And so instead of the wonderment and awe that you may have towards these mentors if they were wise old sages, instead you end up feeling sympathy and empathy for these characters because of the fact that these characters understand that they are not perfect, and they question themselves to being worthy of mentoring another character, and yet their care for that character pushes them on and tries to do the best possible despite all of their imperfections. Now, aside from or possibly because of their age difference, there are other notable differences between the two Dr. Idos. In the case of Dr. Dyson Ido in the movie, he is a gentleman who is riddled with guilt, a tremendous amount of guilt due to the failures that he perceives he has created for both himself and his family. Whether this be his exile from Zalem, his inability to protect his daughter, or his inability to fulfill his wife's dreams, this is a man who feels extremely burdened by his guilt. And a lot of the things that he does during the movie is due to the guilty feelings that he has from his past, including a lot of the actions and the relationship that he has with Alita. And although Dr. Daisuke Ido from the comic has similar burdens, he keeps them a lot more deeper hidden in his persona and is a lot less aware of them than Dr. Dyson Ido in the movie. And because of that, in the beginning, he is a lot more flamboyant, a lot more enjoying of his life. This is still more of an adventure to him rather than a burden, a role of redemption, if you will. And so he looks at Alita as an ability to gain another friend, another partner, another interesting person to be able to mentor and take care of. And because of this, Dr. Daisuke Ido seems to be a character that's a little bit less dark, a little bit less guilt-ridden than Dr. Dyson Ido in the movie. And also he seems to be a little bit more closed-minded in his thoughts. And this is reflective in the relationship that both of these characters, Dr. Idos, have with their corresponding partner, Alita. Now in both cases, I do feel that the source of how a lot of the conflict that comes out in the beginning is due to a similar sort of experience that they have in the past, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But as you can see in the movie, it's not the awestruck student that listens to the wise old sage mentor, but it's more rebellious, a more independent thinking person that goes against the somewhat overburdening persona of the mentor. And in the case of Daisuke Ido, this has resulted in a relatively memorable scene in the comic, which a lot of readers refer to, and that is the place where Alita responds back, "I am not a doll for you to play with," when Ido talks about the fact that she doesn't have to burden herself with becoming a hunter warrior, not realizing that that is the dream that she wants to have. And although in both cases, again, I do feel that Dyson Ido and Daisuke Ido were providing that kind of protection due to the past incidents that they had. In the case of Dyson Ido, it's of course the death of his daughter Alita, and in the case of Daisuke Ido, I feel it is the death of Carol, one of his very closest friends that you could read about in the side story Holy Night. And in both cases, I feel that these characters, or these Dyson Idos, feel responsible for the death of someone so close to them because of the inadequacies that they had, and because of that, they become extremely overprotective of Alita to the point where Alita feels that she is being constrained. And unfortunately for the case of Daisuke Ido, not only is he being overprotective, because he is a lot less kind of mature, a lot less wise character than Dyson Ido, he awkwardly communicates this to Alita, which makes her even more infuriated with the Daisuke Ido character rather than the Dyson Ido character. And I feel that this is relatively appropriate because of the fact that, again, Daisuke Ido is in a place where he is still in denial. He has hidden a lot of his hidden guilt in the back, and he doesn't want to deal with them. And because of his denial, he feels that he knows better than anybody else what's best for them. Whereas with Dyson Ido, he feels so much of the guilt, and he feels so down from a lot of his actions that he questions a lot of his actions. And because of that, he doesn't press that point as hard as Dr. Daisuke Ido does in the comic. And with respect to both the comic and the movie, both Dr. Idos come to a conclusion that they really can't protect Alita. The best person to protect Alita is Alita herself, and she is far stronger than any of the characters that come out in the early parts of the movie as well as the comic. And so both Dr. Idos make a decision that they will let Alita take care of herself. And through that, of course, there is a growth in both the Alita character as well as the Ido character. Now, another part of the difference between Daisuke Ido in the comic and Dyson Ido in the movie is how they portray their inner id. And in the case of Daisuke Ido in the comic, I feel that he does have a much more darker, a much more colder side to him, although he keeps it well hidden most of the time. But every once in a while in the comic, it does come out. And when it does come out, you do feel a lot more of this dark, colder side, which actually is quite appropriate for his hunter-warrior persona. And in the case of Dyson Ido, maybe it's because he's older and he's seen the consequences of what happens when he releases that darker side of him, that he feels a lot less cold, a lot less edgier than the Daisuke Ido in the comic. And because of that, I think a lot of people have questioned Dyson Ido as being a hunter-warrior because he just doesn't feel like he fills that role well. And that's unfortunate because a lot of people have blamed his age for being the reason that he shouldn't be a hunter-warrior. And of course, for a lot of people who have done martial arts, many of us know that a lot of the strongest and the most skillful martial artists out there are the people who are considered the grandmasters, and most of them are quite old. And so there is a difference between the strength and the agility and the endurance that you may have when you're younger versus the wisdom and the skills that you have when you're older. And one thing I do feel that I would like to criticize with the movie is that they could have portrayed Dyson Ido as a gentleman who may be older and may have limited amount of endurance, strength, and speed, but does have a lot of the wisdom and the skills that may still make him an effective hunter-warrior. And so yeah, in the end, there are differences between Daisuke Ido and Dyson Ido, and if I were to say it as simple as possible, I do feel that the Dyson Ido is the character that Daisuke Ido will eventually become and gets closer to as the comic progresses. So the Daisuke Ido that you see later on in the comic is far closer to the Dyson Ido persona that you see in the movie. And because of that, although there are conflicting relationships between Alita and Dyson Ido or Alita and Daisuke Ido, they are dealt with appropriately for the type of persona change that they have between the two Dr. Idos. And I think that that is fine. And the thing I do like about this mentor relationship is that, once again, the mentor is not considered a perfect mentor. And because of that, there are conflicts that go on, but it is the overwhelming care that these two characters have for each other that they can survive through a lot of the conflicting situations and have such a close relationship with each other. And because of this conflict and this care, it feels a lot more real, it feels a lot more in-depth than a lot of the mentoring situations that you have in a lot of other movies or stories. And so because of that, I do feel once again that the readers cherish this relationship a lot. They can relate to both the Alita character as well as the Ido character. And because of that, they feel that this relationship is something very special and unique to this particular story. Well, that's about it for this video. And I would like to ask you viewers, how do you feel with regards to the relationship between Alita and the corresponding Dr. Idos, whether it's Dr. Dyson Ido that you saw in the movie or Dr. Daisuke Ido that you saw in the comic? And if you have read both the comic and the movie, how do you feel about the differences and the similarities between the two Dr. Idos? Do you feel that both characters are well represented, and even if they are not the same character, do you feel that they have a good presence in either of these stories to make the relationship worthwhile? And I would like to thank you as always with regards to your comments, because I find your comments always fascinating. And once again, thank you very much for watching this video. And I'll continue to make more Alita Battle Angel, Battle Angel Alita, GUNNM videos in the future, and at that time I hope you join us. And until then, happy movie watching, happy anime watching, happy comic book reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day everyone.